let's take a look at filtering using slicer and timelines in Excel 2013. This comes from Chapter 4 of the Pivot Table Data Crunching book, and it starts on page 106. We're first going to start with our pivot table. Now we've created a pivot table that includes the pivot table fields of date, customer, revenue, and profit. What we want to do is, you'll recall in Chapter 2 we first looked at slicers and timeline slicers and saw that they were a more visual way of looking at filtering our data. Just makes it easier. All of the data is right in front, all of the fields are right in front of us. We can easily choose what we want to look at, what we want to include in our data. This time what we want to do is we want to take a little more look at how we can visually change those slicers and some things we can do differently with them. So we're going to go up to Pivot Table Tools, click on Analyze, and go to Insert Slicer. For this example, we're going to just choose Region, Market, and Rep. Click OK. So we've got our boxes. First thing we're going to do is we're going to change the color of these boxes. Just click on the box, you go up to Slicer Styles, and you'll see that you have custom light or dark options. Just click on some colors. You can change all of the colors, you can make them all one color, you can make them different color for each one, whatever you prefer. Then you'll see when you click on a filter, so we're going to filter by the Midwest, you're going to see that the Midwest button is going to remain in that burgundy color that we turned them all to. Everything else in that box that is not being used is going to turn gray. So you're going to know that that information is not included in your current data view. But you're also going to see over in the rest of your boxes, any of the fields that correspond with that are going to remain dark. Anything that's not being included in that current data view are going to turn light. So you can see in the Midwest, the top 5 cities in the market are included in the Midwest, as well as the top 5 reps. So what you can also see is, let's go ahead and remove that filter. Click on the top right button for clear filter. You can also see that we had to scroll through rep and market to see who was included. What we can do with those is click on the box, go back up to Slicer Tool Options. Under columns, or at columns, we can increase that or decrease that. So this instance, grab the handle, we'll make it wider and shorter. We can now look at all 12 of the reps at one time. We can also do that with market and increase the boxes there and do the same thing. So now we can see all 12 reps and all 12 markets at the same time. Makes it easier to pick and choose which ones we want to look at. So now we can select red from the rep list, and we can see that red works in the Houston market in the southern region. We can remove that filter. Let's go ahead and remove these. We want to look at the timeline slicer as well. Right click and remove each of those boxes. And then click back on your table, go back up to Analyze, Insert Timeline. Now timeline, you'll remember, it's the same thing as a slicer, but it only looks at dates. So we click on date, click OK. Timeline slicer, we can do the same thing. We can go up and change the color. And then, as you'll recall, timeline slicer allows us to look at periods of time. So we can look at months, years, quarters, days, whatever you prefer, whatever data you're needing to look at. You can also use the mouse, scroll over, pick, let's say we want to look at the first 6 months, we can do that. You can remove that filter, and you can just look at a particular day. So if you want to look at April 12th of 2014, you can see that information. You can go ahead and remove that, right click, remove timeline. And that is how we use our slicers and timeline slicers in Excel 2013 and just make them a little more visual as we filter our data.